report. Appreciate you adding the monthly percentage on that. What I was really hoping was to have a running set of, so we'd have January, February, March, April, and each month add the next one so we can see kind of the full picture of the year at a glance kind of thing.
Okay.
But that's very helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. There any other questions?
None from me.
I didn't have any.
Okay.
Good.
Septic project, we, as you know, are in the process of rebidding it. The bid date is the 25th of May. Unhappily, we've only got 2 plans that have been issued to prospective bidders at this time. We're still going to see if we can encourage up some interest so we get some competition on this. But the one bidder that bid and was not qualified to do the work has partnered this time with somebody who is. So maybe that will help. I don't know. So yeah,
Okay.
you can't give money away. I mean, it's just. And we are going to talk about the master plan update after we adjourn. So I will brief you on that stuff then.
Okay. So I guess we have secretary's report.
We were actually going to have the chief talk about the Boston Harbor adjoining property.
Oh, that's right. I missed that. Yes. I hadn't printed off the new agenda. So yeah,
Okay.
go ahead and talk.
I had a phone call yesterday from a real estate agent who was acting on the behalf of the Root family and said that they're going to be placing that property on the market in the near future, and that the family had asked her to contact us before they put it on the market. So I let the person know that I would be talking with the board tonight and get some indication of whether we're interested or not. I don't know what the value is, and I think in any transaction that we would want to get an independent appraisal before we closed on the deal, certainly, because we're using tax money. But they said that they're putting it on the market for $325, which seems a little high for a postage stamp lot with a house that's no good, but I don't know what the appraised value is. So that's all I really know at this point.
Where is the piece of property? Is it, if you're looking at from the street towards the fire department, is it on the right, the left, or is it behind it, or?
It's just north of the Station 83. If you're standing in the street, it would be on the left of the fire station.
Okay.
It's a little house. It's kind of nondescript. In fact, you drive around it to get into the back side of our property. The driveway.
Yeah, the actual driveway, you go just slightly past the house and then you're driving on the driveway. And yeah, the other side is the front ramp. So yeah, it is a tiny little postage stamp. It's more trees than house.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with the way the market is right now, they're probably right in the ballpark. Just knowing what the values of things are. My son just sold his house and he had bought it 3 years ago for $325 and he sold it for $399. And that's on an acre lot and off of 44th. So things are crazy right now. And if somebody wants something like that and thinks that later they're going to get higher value for it, then they'd sock us more for it if we wanted it later down the road. So I would say yes, if they would let us get paid for an appraisal to see what the value, but if they're asking $325 and they're not going to budge on it after the appraisal, then I'd say we'd have to pay the $325. If the appraisal came in lower, then we could.
Can I suggest that we should not be talking about prices that we would consider in a public meeting?
Okay.
I think that there's a clause of the Open Public Meetings Act that allows us, with good reason, to discuss pricing of real estate. I don't know the exact terminology, but that kind of a discussion in an executive session, which I think would be more appropriate.
Okay.
I would ask the question of what would be the utility to the fire department to purchase that property? What would be our benefit if we were to own that?
Potentially, if at some point in the future we wanted to expand the current fire station and have room to do that, that would provide room to us. Right now, the profile of the building is pretty much limited by the north and south property lines. Potentially, we could in the future maybe create a resident facility that would be separate from the fire station there and place it on that site. I do understand that the utilities are marginal at best at the site. So if we did that, we'd probably want to connect with the fire station utilities and, surplus or retire the septic system and the well that are located there. Yeah, it was something that I know that District 7 talked about prior to the merger as part of a plan that they had. And we've continued to include that or a consideration for it in our budget since then. But we had no specific budget for it other than what we had set aside. So,
Right. And, understanding sort of historical and emotional attachment to it. Even with, we could do a resident program or we could do something. I mean, yeah, I just don't, it's not obvious to me what, benefit that we would really get out of that, other than you wouldn't have somebody doing something on a piece of property that was between two driveways that the fire district owns.
True.
Do we own that easement that takes us to the back part of our property? We do. Okay.
That's a permanent easement.
Okay.
Is there, yeah, I had a question about that too. That is an easement. Have you looked at the legal language on that? Is there any risk that we have of a new owner? Do they have any power that could impact us in a negative way?
I don't know that. I haven't looked at that. That's a good question. It certainly would be something that we would look into if we wanted to. Well, probably a good thing to look into anyway.
Yeah, getting back to what Doug is talking about, he's talking about positive reasons why we might want to acquire the property. If we don't have one of those, the next question would be, is there some defensive reason to prevent a risk of some type coming about?
Right. The one thing I would tell you, though, if we did purchase that land, there would need to be additional expense of probably removing that house and capping the well and abandoning the septic tank, regardless of what our future plan was. The house is very poor shape. It's a hazard, frankly. And we don't need the well. The well isn't that good, and the septic tank is problematic too. So it would be the purchase price plus the cost for improvements, if you will, after we purchased it. I did want to add something, Milt, that you mentioned about price, and I just wanted to pass on what they plan to have the marketed price on. It was no way to interpret that it would be a district proposal to pay that or not. Again, I think that it's really important that we, before we move much further, if we're interested in getting an independent audit on it or appraisal on it. So, because I have no idea what it could be worth in an independent appraisal. So.
Okay.
I think the only other thing I might add is it would probably be something that we'll either, or we should act on quickly or choose to not act on it, because I think, Gloria, you may be right. I don't know how quickly that will sell, but I think it's important that we let the real estate agent know what our indication is, and if so, the things that we need to do.
Yeah.
Or if we're not, then there's nothing we need to do other than probably check that the title of our, our title for the old fire station site for the easement. And coming to think about it, when we did research on the properties before, I think that there are on the parcel drawings shows that easement, but I'll double check. So
Yeah. So
So was
I'm,
there another easement to that property that we had? I thought we talked about selling one like a year ago. Was that the same easement or a different one?
Different.
the one that we talked about before was a different one on 78th Avenue Northeast, which
Okay.
we still own, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
you mean that easement on 78th we still own? It didn't go with the properties? Really?
Wow.
And we've been trying to work with the owner on whose driveway the easement is on to see if we could, quote, sell it to him. Frankly, I'd give it to him, but legally, we have prepared all the paperwork and everything, and doesn't want to give us the time of day for some reason. I mean, you can't give money away, so.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
an anomaly, so. And we still pay stormwater runoff assessment on it. It's like $25 or something like that, but we still own a small island of property out there.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I guess doesn't sound like overwhelming interest in doing it.
Well, I would be interested if you were making a compelling statement saying, yeah, we've got a good operational use for this, but I'm not hearing that. I in the back of my mind, I like the option of having a resident program option there, but that's a lot of money to spend for an option, and I'm not sure that that's a wise thing for us to do. I do think it's worth double checking the easement and making sure there's not any issues around that might lead us to a different conclusion. But
I would agree with you, Milt, on the, sort of the defensive nature of it, just to research those possible hazards, if you will, to having someone acquire that and do something else with it. I don't know if the zoning of that would allow anything other than another house on there. That would be something to find out,
I think I believe the zoning is rural residential, and it's grandfathered in from the 5-acre minimum.
Yeah.
So it's not in a commercial zone, and our fire station is on a special use permit. So it doesn't carry any commercial or zoning like that. So again, when we looked at it before, I think all those surrounding properties are rural residential 5.
Okay.
And do we own all that property clear back to the woods behind the station?
There are actually four parcels.
Okay.
There's 2 in the front and 2 in the back, and they're both long and narrow. And the lot where the old fire station sits, or which is now they call it the exercise room or whatever, was the original fire station. And that property was sold to the fire district, apparently by the Root family or somebody. And they deeded over and created a separate parcel and deeded it over. So then when in 1994, 95, when the district wanted to build their new fire station, the existing one, they purchased the land next door. And then in behind were 2 different lots that originally, I believe, that the Association for the North Olympia Firefighters owned. And then at one point, they transferred them or sold them to the fire district. So there are 4 parcels there, and they go back quite far. It goes back nearly to the cul-de-sac that's in behind of that whole thing. So, and both of those parcels are, there's no structures on them, and they're basically just forested areas.
Yeah,
There's a
they're
sea-
probably wetland, as a matter of fact.
Well,
There-
there is a seasonal creek. There's a seasonal creek that goes through there, and it is seasonal. In the summer, it's pretty dry, but I would guess that if we did a study back there, that we would find some wetland. I'm pretty sure. So
There is an open field and there actually was a kind of a picnic shelter that was used for association activities and so forth
Right.
many years ago.
Yeah. In fact, that structure's still there. It's in poor repair right now. In fact, frankly, I think it would be kind of neat to fix it up sometime, but right now it's not being used. So, but to answer your question, to me, it's a cost benefit, and I think that if the value of that property is such that it's approaches or exceeds the asking price, plus the cost that we would need to do to fix up the site, if you will, would be pretty expensive. And it was, other than the purchase price, which is considered, that we estimated was considerably less than the asking price, we have not budgeted anything in our planning to do improvements on that site. So what we could do with it, I mean, operationally, we have enough land currently to do what function we are doing at that site and what we plan to do for the next 20, 25 years. It's a fire station. We're not putting any other types of uses on that property. So I find it hard to provide that compelling argument to purchase it, to be honest with you. Again, we had talked about it in the past. We knew that after Shirley was, moved out of the house, that this would come up, and it did.
The one thing that I think has been discussed at some time in the past was just using that property to expand parking, because parking does, when there are any group events there, parking overflows out onto Boston Harbor Road, and that can create a little bit of a hazard. And I think, if that could somehow tie in with some operational benefit for the department, that might make sense. But I'm not sure that there again, that the investment just for that purpose is justifiable, in my opinion. So.
Well, I know we've talked about remodeling that station. Would there be more benefit to, adding on to that other side of the bay and utilizing it on, utilizing your new sleep quarters or whatever on that side of the bay, so you have a better use of, you have the room that the conference, or the one room that everybody uses for when they want to rent or use the space at the fire station. What is it? The banquet room or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think that the scenarios that we've been looking at to remodel that building really are within the current footprint. I think there's plenty of space in that, primarily the main floor, to do what we need to do to provide staffing and have public interface, even into the long term. I think some of it needs to be, some of the equipment, some of the utilities need to be upgraded or updated. It needs to be a little bit of reconfiguration and cleanup and so forth. But by and large, I think staying within that footprint, probably the shell of the building, because the shell is in relatively good shape. It's a steel building. And they last forever. So I don't see at this point the need to expand beyond the current footprint of that building.
Okay. I mean, that's just thinking future down the road, you best know what that would need, what the use of it would be. So
yeah, I think if we didn't have a training site, or if we didn't have some of the things that we already do, that would cause me to think about those sorts of options. But I think that we pretty well covered it in our facility strategic plan, our master plan.
Okay. Well, I'd say before we say no to the realtor is just check the easement and make sure there's that something's gonna come back at us if they sell the property.
Okay.
And that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I could do that. So,
Any more discussion on this?
so there is really no other action that's needed at this time other than finding out if there's a potential access issue with the sale of the property.
Right. Because if there is, then, that's our only way into the back of the property.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if there's any controlling interest there, but I will double check. So,
Okay. Okay, so any more discussion on this? So I guess we move on to approval of the minutes.
Yeah, I sent out the minutes from April 13th, and I don't believe there were any changes to those.
I didn't have any.
I think you made a couple minor ones that I suggested, nothing changing, meaning just clarification, South
Okay.
Bay along with Station 81, stuff like that.
You're right, I did make 2 changes. You're absolutely correct.
Okay, so do we have a motion
Yeah, I'll move, we approve the minutes as presented.
in a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
I've,
Aye. Okay, approved.
All right, great. And any questions on the warrants?
I have a couple questions just because
All right,
I don't know. So on number 443, it's Trotter and Morton. I just had a question. Is this HVAC maintenance, is that cost for like a whole year for all 3 stations, or is that something you pay quarterly or monthly? I mean, that to me was a lot for maintenance. And then to see a little bit later that we paid for them, or we paid for some other work to be done. So I'm like, okay.
maybe Brent could answer that question. Brent? Maybe he's not listening.
He's on mute, so he might not be. Brent, are you there? He's probably chasing some littles.
Yeah,
Probably.
one of the things I do know is we have a contract for the main station 81 and a contract for 83. We do have a contract now for station 82, which is considerably smaller scope of work because it's a smaller building, as well as a minor contract for our resident facility. So there are 4 contracts that we have for maintenance in the district. So I don't know if that sum includes all 4 contracts or what, but we do pay on one contract is monthly, one of them is bi-monthly. It's set up a little differently. So
It just
I
seems
can-
high, and then to pay.
I can follow up with that for you, although the way that it's written here, it does say it's for all 3 stations. But I'm happy to research that for you and see.
I was just
Here
curious
comes,
because it seemed
Is
kind of
Brent-
high.
Brent, are you on?
Yeah, how much was it for?
it was
3,000.
3,900.
$39.79.
That's for all of them, and then sometimes they bill us for 2 months at a time for like station 82 and 83. They don't get they don't have to go out there as often, so they bill us not as frequent. Station
that-
81 they bill us monthly on, and that's about, I believe, like $1,200 a month. And then the other facilities, they don't require as much maintenance because their systems aren't as complex.
So, okay, so when the maintenance, they're just doing the general cleaning and filter changes and
Correct.
checking airflow, all that?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. That was my question. Oh, wait, I had one more. On the number 482, it says Washington Board of Volunteers, Officer Relief and Pension Act. I was curious if that's an annual thing or if that's a monthly thing as well.
That is an annual thing, and normally I pay that in December for the year, and it somehow got missed. I'm not sure how, but I realized that I hadn't paid it, so that's what it is. But it's annual. We pay $30 for 30 and 60, $90 per person. And then at the end of the year, they verify whether all of our volunteers actually stayed. And if they didn't, they credit that money back to us.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So yeah, part of it's their disability and part of it is the pension.
Okay, that answered it. Thank you.
Sure. Any
Any
other
more?
questions on the warrants?
None here. Okay, so can we have a motion to approve the warrants?
I'll move that we accept the warrants as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved. Okay, so commissioners' comments?
Actually, if I got a couple of things to just keep you up to date on. One is I've been monitoring the work out at Station 82. As you know, we signed the agreement with TCOM. They're in the process of permitting, designing, and building a communication tower at that site, and then everything that's associated with it. From what the director Keith Welling's telling me, that they're making their way through the permitting process. There hasn't been citizens against Station 82 that have come out yet, but they're going through the public hearing process because it requires that as part of the zoning. But they do have actual beginning of starting to take a spade and push a little dirt around this about the end of July. So they think that it'll probably take them about 8 to 10 months to complete the project with all the attributes and so forth. So it is continuing to move on. So I also listened to a hearing today. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife has put in an application to upgrade the boat launch at Boston Harbor Marina. And I listened in on the hearing that they had on that. And frankly, it will have really no impact on the community or on the fire department. It's pretty much just repairing stuff. They're going to replace the modular restroom. They're going to replace the concrete surfacing for the actual launch itself. And then they're going to pave the parking lot that's across the street from that. At this point, their work window really is between July and October. And so they're out for this season. So any of the construction that will be done started no sooner than July of 2022. So it appears that there's no contest about the process. So the project generally won't have much of an impact on us. So other than a nicer launch for folks to use. So, and
one question to follow up on that. Yeah, I expect the community is going to be highly in favor of the project. Is there going to be any risk of them blocking access to the residences that are like further down, like along Lighthouse, Bayview, the rest of that community?
Well, they acknowledge that with the land that they have, parking is a premium, and that they are posting signs where people aren't supposed to park where they're not supposed to park. So it may be self-limiting. I don't know. I know they've received about 5 or 6 letters from the public regarding their interests. There was some discussion about neighboring properties and parking and that, and Fisheries understands that, but the infrastructure there isn't just big enough to really expand for additional parking. So
I'm more concerned about access for like fire engines in case there's a call
They're
while
not,
they're in
they're
the
not
middle of
changing-
construction.
changing the street design at all.
All right, but they're not going to be blocking it during construction.
The Boston Harbor or the street there?
Right, 73rd.
No, they can't. But that's part of the problem is that it's going to take them a while to work around those access areas. But they're not closing the street or vacating the street at all. No. There might be some minor excavation work, but it would be done on a schedule. So. The last thing that I had is I think I brought up a month or so ago concern about there was a fire commissioner during a fire commissioner meeting that had brought up about physicals for firefighters and whether they were going to. I didn't understand what the issue was, and basically what it after finding out about it, what it involves is trying to put pressure on the insurance companies so that they can provide a covered NFPA, I don't know, 25 or whatever, a full medical evaluation that's more extensive than your typical physical examination. And while our current insurance covers that, what they're trying to do is have so that there's coverage for this more extensive type of physical examination. So that's what that ended up being. So I think they're going to try to work that way through the process of whatever they do. So
When you say they, who are you saying? Who's they?
there's 2 or 3 commissioners. One of them is at West Thurston. The other is actually a physician that is a fire commissioner up in Whatcom County. And he has quite a following about firefighter health and safety, which is obviously is a good thing. But they were trying to put pressure on the trustee plan, the plan that we have, to be able to offer that as a benefit to the members for the more extensive physical examination, which obviously is going to be more expensive than a regular physical exam. So, and what the commissioner at West Thurston was trying to do was gain interest in endorsements, and he approached the Fire Chiefs Association, and we're going to consider whether we want to endorse it or not. So I think that they've approached the state council and the unions about it as well. In fact, it's the design of this thing is one that they've worked with the unions on. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, so any commissioner comments?
I have none.
No,
Just Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a webinar tomorrow on communication.
Yeah, I was actually I didn't include it on my comments on the agenda, but there is a webinar tomorrow, and it is the telling your agency's story, and it's from 9 to 10:30. And I think several of you have been and signed up for that. You should have gotten an email with the Zoom link already.
Yeah, I'm excited about that because it's different than the usual cast of characters that they have talking about that kind of stuff. So we might get some fresh ideas. And it might be really timely for us. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I don't have any comments. Doug? No. Okay, so review and follow up.
Yeah, basically the main thing was to follow up on our current easement that we have at the Station 83 site. I will look into that and ensure that we continue to have that. And we'll keep you all posted on our projects as they progress. I know Brent's been sending out the pictures of our new engine as it's getting assembled in Wisconsin. So it's kind of exciting to see it come together. It's like building a model fire engine. All the pieces get put together and painted and so forth. So that's what I have.
Okay. So I guess at this time we will recess and into executive session, correct? To discuss Heidi's eval, and then we will come back and adjourn, and then into what is it, the executive
Exempt
session
session. The
for
exempt.
labor. Okay. But no action will be taken. Okay, so everybody can take a break for 5-10 minutes, maybe?
I think you're supposed
correct?
to indicate the expected duration of the executive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
session Also,
So say 5 minutes.
How long? Well, we don't need to take a recess, but you need to announce how long you expect the executive session to last.
The executive session for your eval will be 10 minutes,
Okay.
and then we'll come back.
And
Okay.
can you have other
Good.
people on the line when you do that in the executive session?
No, they're gonna hang up,
Okay.
or I'm gonna hang them up for them.
Checking.
but you announce the time so that they could. come back
Yes, 10
in
minutes and they
10
can
minutes.
come back.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
See. Okay, there we go. And I'm gonna
Okay.
stop recording as well.